Most beginners don't quit whiskey because they don't like it. They quit because the first bottle hits too hard, too fast, and teaches the wrong lesson. Smoothness isn't about sweetness or hiding flaws. It's about balance, mouthfeel, and a finish that invites a second sip instead of daring you to survive the first. Today we're ranking zero-proof whiskey-style drinks from worst to best for beginners, counting down from disappointment to bottles that actually understand what smooth is supposed to feel like. This list will spark arguments. Let's start at the bottom and work our way up. 15. Arkay Alcohol, Free Irish Whiskey. Arkay opens the list because it confuses easy with empty. On the first sip, there's no shock and no sting, which sounds ideal for beginners, until you realize the trade-off. The body feels thin, the aromas arrive politely and leave early, and the flavor never quite gathers itself into a convincing whiskey impression. You get hints of sweetness and a suggestion of grain, but the experience reads more like a concept than a crafted pour. That absence matters. Smoothness isn't silence, it's coherence. Arkay avoids sharp edges by sanding everything down, including the parts that make a whiskey-style drink feel comforting. The finish fades quickly, offering no warmth, no oak memory, and nothing to pull you back for another sip. It's approachable in the same way plain toast is approachable, harmless but not engaging. There's a place for this bottle. If the goal is participation, holding a glass during a social moment without intensity, Arkay does the job. But in a ranking built around pleasure and believability, it lands last because it never asks for your attention and never earns it either. 14. Whissin 0.0. Whiskey-inspired drink. Whissin 0.0 steps up with more personality, but it leans into sweetness as a shortcut to smoothness. The opening is friendly and rounded, with a soft, candy-adjacent note that makes the first sip feel comforting. The problem is what follows. That sweetness dominates the mid-palate, flattening complexity and blurring any sense of barrel character into something generic. For beginners, this can be a mixed blessing. On one hand, there's no aggression, no bite, and no unpleasant surprise. On the other, the drink never evolves. Each sip tastes nearly identical to the last, and the finish lingers just long enough to remind you that balance never quite arrived. Instead of warmth, you get a sugary echo that crowds out nuance. Whissin works best when expectations are low and the moment is casual. It's a crowd pleaser for people who equate smoothness with sweetness and aren't hunting for realism. But ranked against bottles that manage to be gentle and layered, it falls short. Smooth should feel grown, not merely soft. 13. Undone No. 3 American Blend, not whiskey. Undone No. 3 is honest about its mission, and that honesty shapes its placement. This bottle isn't trying to impersonate a classic pour. It's built to behave well in mixed moments and social settings. Neat, it opens with approachable sweetness and a faint suggestion of oak, then settles into a light, clean profile that never raises its voice. The upside is approachability. Beginners won't flinch here. The downside is conviction. The body feels intentionally restrained, the aromas stay cautious, and the finish exits before any sense of warmth can develop. You're left with a pleasant impression rather than a memorable one. Where Undone shines is context. As a base for simple serves or an easygoing sip during conversation, it behaves predictably and politely. But this countdown rewards bottles that hold their own without assistance. Undone earns respect for clarity of purpose, yet ranks lower because smoothness alone isn't the finish line. Without a stronger identity, it never quite steps into whiskey territory. 12. Ritual Zero Proof. Whiskey alternative. Ritual brings intention. From the first pour, there's structure, vanilla, oak suggestion, and a deliberate warmth that aims to mimic a traditional finish. The entry is controlled and welcoming, but unlike the bottles below it, Ritual actually tries to create a sense of progression from sip to swallow. That ambition is also its limitation. The profile feels engineered for versatility, which means neat sipping can feel slightly staged. You notice the design. The warmth arrives on cue, the sweetness behaves, and the finish lands where it's supposed to. But the illusion never fully relaxes. It's convincing enough to enjoy, yet not immersive enough to forget you're drinking an alternative. For beginners, Ritual is a safe step forward. It introduces structure without intimidation and rewards slow sipping with consistency. Ranked here because it prioritizes functionality over finesse. Smooth, yes. Seamless, not quite. 11. Lyre's American Malt. Lyre's American Malt marks the point where the list stops feeling like substitutes and starts feeling like preferences. The nose carries recognizable bourbon cues: vanilla, caramel, light oak, and the palate follows through with a fuller mouthfeel than expected. The entry is gentle, but not shy, and the mid-palate finally feels assembled rather than diluted. What keeps Lyre's from climbing higher is polish. The flavors arrive with enthusiasm, yet the transitions can feel abrupt. Sweetness occasionally nudges ahead of balance, and the finish, while pleasant, doesn't quite knit the experience together. You enjoy the sip, then notice the seams. Still, for beginners searching for something that feels like whiskey without demanding tolerance, this bottle delivers. It's engaging, recognizable, and far more satisfying than the options below. Lyre's earns its place by offering real comfort and character, just not the effortless flow that defines the top tier. If this countdown's helping you dodge bad picks, tap like and subscribe. We're breaking down more ranked lists that save you money and guesswork. Let's get back to the next. Number 10. Glen Dochus Export Blend. Glen Dochus marks the point where the list changes tone. The mouthfeel thickens, the flavors slow down, and the experience begins to unfold instead of rush past. There's a subtle grain backbone here, paired with gentle spice and a finish that actually waits before leaving. For beginners, this bottle introduces patience. It rewards small sips and attention, without punishing curiosity. The profile leans more traditional, hinting at blended Scotch character, which gives it a sense of place and direction missing from earlier entries. Glen Dochus ranks at number 10 because it finally feels complete. It's not flashy, but it's coherent. Smoothness here comes from balance, not avoidance. This is where the countdown stops apologizing and starts delivering. 9. HP Juniper Single Malt Whiskey Alternative. HP Juniper is where the list starts to feel opinionated. This bottle doesn't chase universal appeal or easy sweetness. Instead, it leans into a more structured, almost contemplative profile that asks beginners to slow down and pay attention. The first sip introduces subtle fruit and botanical notes before easing into a gentle spice that suggests single malt inspiration without copying it outright. What makes HP Juniper stand out is restraint. It doesn't rush to impress. The flavors arrive in layers, then settle into a calm, dry finish that feels intentional rather than abrupt. For a beginner, that can be refreshing. It teaches that smoothness isn't about sugar or softness alone, but about pacing. This bottle won't be everyone's first love. Some newcomers may find it less immediately comforting than sweeter options. But for those curious about depth without aggression, HP Juniper offers an early glimpse of what whiskey culture values: nuance, balance, and character. It ranks here because it rewards curiosity, even if it doesn't hold your hand the entire way. 8. Gnista Barreled Oak. Gnista Barreled Oak doesn't whisper. It speaks confidently, but without shouting. From the first pour, there's a sense of density and seriousness that separates it from lighter entries. Oak, dried fruit, and gentle spice come together in a profile that feels deliberate and grounded, giving the impression of something aged rather than assembled. For beginners, this bottle changes expectations. It introduces weight. The mouthfeel lingers, coating the palate in a way that feels comforting rather than confrontational. The finish stretches out slowly, leaving warmth without sharpness, which is a rare balance to strike at this stage of the countdown. Gnista ranks this high because it proves that smoothness can coexist with intensity. It doesn't dilute itself to be liked. Instead, it trusts that beginners are capable of appreciating substance when it's presented thoughtfully. This is the first bottle on the list that feels less like an alternative and more like a destination in its own right. 7. Bear Zero Proof. Bourbon whiskey. Bear understands the emotional language of bourbon. From the opening sip, it leans into familiar cues: vanilla, toasted oak, caramel warmth, without tipping into syrupy excess. The experience feels cozy, almost nostalgic, even for drinkers who are new to whiskey-style profiles. What sets Bear apart is how naturally it flows. Each sip connects to the next, creating continuity rather than isolated impressions. Beginners benefit from that consistency. There's no surprise bitterness, no sudden drop-off. Just a steady, reassuring rhythm that builds confidence with every pour. Bear earns its spot by feeling complete. It doesn't try to impress through complexity alone. Instead, it focuses on comfort and clarity, making it ideal for newcomers who want to understand why bourbon has such a devoted following. Smoothness here isn't accidental. It's the result of careful balance, and that earns Bear a place in the upper half of the ranking. 6. NKD Whiskey. Non-alcoholic spirit, NKD arrives with presence. The body is fuller, the aromas linger longer, and the flavors feel intentionally layered. Notes of oak, honey, and soft spice unfold gradually, creating an experience that encourages slower sipping and reflection rather than quick consumption. For beginners, NKD offers reassurance through structure. The profile feels anchored with a clear beginning, middle, and end. There's no confusion about what the drink is trying to be. It's warm without heat, rich without heaviness, and smooth without fading into the background. This bottle ranks high because it bridges the gap between approachability and sophistication. It respects the beginner's palate while quietly raising expectations. NKD doesn't rush to charm, it builds trust over time. By the end of the glass, it feels less like an experiment and more like a habit forming. And that's exactly what a smooth, beginner-friendly whiskey-style drink should do. 5. Cut Above Zero. Proof whiskey, Cut Above earns its name by delivering confidence from the first sip. The profile is layered and expressive, blending dark fruit notes with oak and gentle spice in a way that feels cohesive rather than crowded. There's an immediate sense of control here. Nothing dominates, nothing feels out of place. For beginners, this bottle feels like a turning point. The texture is rounded, the progression is clear, and the finish arrives calmly, leaving behind warmth instead of questions. It invites comparison, not avoidance. You start noticing details, then appreciating how they work together. Cut Above ranks in the top 5 because it combines smoothness with intent. It doesn't rely on novelty or branding to justify its place. Instead, it delivers an experience that feels thoughtfully designed for sipping, not just substituting. At this point in the countdown, the bottles stop explaining themselves, and Cut Above is one of the first that doesn't need to. 4. Clean Co Clean. Clean Co Clean. W earns its place near the top because it understands something many beginner-focused bottles miss. Smoothness is as much about finish as it is about entry. The first sip arrives gently, with rounded oak and soft vanilla tones that don't rush or overwhelm. Instead of announcing itself loudly, Clean W settles in, giving the palate time to adjust and relax. What makes this bottle stand out is its sense of control. The flavors don't compete with each other. Fruit notes hover quietly in the background, spice stays restrained, and the texture feels deliberate, almost polished. For a beginner, that creates confidence. There's no moment where the drink suddenly turns sharp or confusing. Each sip reinforces the same calm message. You're safe here. Clean W also benefits from coherence. The experience feels unified from start to finish, which is rare. Some whiskey-style drinks offer a pleasant opening but collapse into an awkward aftertaste. Clean W avoids that trap by keeping its exit clean and measured. The glass empties without resistance, which is often the truest test of smoothness. This bottle ranks 4th because it delivers maturity without intimidation. It doesn't rely on novelty or exaggeration. Instead, it offers balance and consistency, qualities that beginners may not articulate, but immediately recognize. Clean Co Clean W feels like a conversation that never raises its voice, and that quiet confidence is exactly why it lands so high in the countdown. 3. Monday, Zero Alcohol. Whiskey Monday, Zero Alcohol. Whiskey approaches smoothness like a designer approaches form. Everything feels intentional. From the aroma to the final trace left on the palate, there's a sense that nothing is accidental. Caramel and toasted notes arrive early, followed by darker, richer elements that add weight without tipping into heaviness. For beginners, Monday offers reassurance through familiarity. The profile feels composed, almost architectural, giving the impression of structure rather than improvisation. Each sip unfolds predictably, which builds trust. There's comfort in knowing what's coming next, especially when learning to appreciate whiskey-style drinks. What elevates Monday into the top 3 is how it handles depth. Instead of pushing intensity, it layers flavors gently, allowing them to overlap rather than collide. The mouthfeel is smooth but not lazy. It carries momentum, guiding the drinker from start to finish without losing focus. Monday's finish deserves special attention. It lingers just long enough to feel satisfying, then steps aside gracefully. There's no abrupt cutoff, no artificial echo. That restraint makes it feel grown, even elegant, without ever drifting into pretension. This bottle ranks 3rd because it balances accessibility with sophistication. It doesn't chase extremes. It simply delivers a refined, repeatable experience that beginners can grow into rather than out of. Monday doesn't shout for attention. It earns it quietly, sip by sip. 2. Free Spirits. The spirit of bourbon. Free Spirits arrives with a sense of assurance that's impossible to ignore. From the first pour, there's richness in both aroma and texture, signaling that this bottle intends to be taken seriously. Notes of caramel, oak, and gentle spice come together in a profile that feels indulgent without becoming heavy. For beginners, this bottle feels like a reward. The smoothness is immediate, but not simplistic. There's depth beneath the surface, encouraging slower sipping and reflection. Each taste reveals something slightly different, creating a dynamic experience that keeps attention engaged rather than complacent. What separates Free Spirits from most competitors is its mouthfeel. It has weight. The liquid coats the palate, creating a sensation that closely mirrors traditional bourbon comfort without relying on heat. That physical presence matters. It teaches beginners what fullness feels like, not just what softness avoids. The finish is warm, rounded, and satisfying. It doesn't linger awkwardly or fade too fast. Instead, it closes the experience with confidence, leaving the impression that another pour would be welcome rather than risky. Free Spirits ranks 2nd because it nearly perfects the balance between pleasure and approachability. It feels premium without being exclusive, smooth without being dull. This is a bottle that doesn't just welcome beginners, it convinces them they made the right choice exploring whiskey-style drinks in the first place. 1. Spiritless Kentucky. 74 non-alcoholic bourbon. Spiritless Kentucky. 74 takes the top spot because it understands the assignment completely. This bottle doesn't aim to impress through excess. It wins by delivering the most convincing, satisfying, and beginner-friendly whiskey-style experience on the list. From the first sip, there's harmony, oak, spice, and subtle sweetness working together instead of competing. For beginners, Kentucky 74 feels intuitive. Nothing surprises in the wrong way. The texture is rounded, the progression is smooth, and the finish feels earned. There's a sense of warmth that mimics tradition without crossing into harshness, making it approachable without stripping away character. What truly sets this bottle apart is realism. The flavors feel grounded, as if they belong together naturally rather than being assembled to imitate whiskey cues. Each sip reinforces that illusion, building trust and encouraging repeat pours. Beginners don't feel like they're drinking an alternative. They feel like they're drinking something complete. The finish is calm and lingering, leaving behind comfort rather than confusion. It invites a second glass not out of curiosity, but out of desire. That's the ultimate marker of smoothness. Spiritless Kentucky 74 ranks number 1 because it delivers exactly what beginners need: balance, authenticity, and confidence. It doesn't overteach or oversell. It simply performs. And when the glass is empty, it leaves one clear thought behind. This is what smooth is supposed to feel like. Smoothness isn't about avoiding whiskey, it's about discovering it the right way. These bottles prove that balance beats bravado every time. If your favorite didn't make the cut, say it loudly in the comments. And if you're just getting started, pour slowly. The best sips reward patience.